What's up, guys? Today we're going to take a look at the SSL 4KE plugin. Now, this is specifically the one from SSL. What I'm going to do is give you an overview of the plugin and all the different parts of the plugins and what they do. I'm going to be using one of my own tracks for this from My God Machina. You'll notice that this is purely a raw recording. There's no, apart from the actual 4KE that we're using, and I've got a VU meter on there. Beyond that, there's no processing apart from these bass guitars. So all I've got on there is a Sans amp and some EQs on there just to kind of bring this bass out because it's a bass heavy track. That's what's really driving this song. Apart from that, everything else was recorded here at Green Wave Productions, and it sounds a little bit like this. Okay, it gives you a little bit of a flavor for it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mainly concentrate on this kick here, which sounds like this. So we're going into the 4KE. This is what the 4KE plugin looks like if you've not seen it before. Now, what is the 4KE? So the SSL 4000E series console, that's what this emulates. That was produced in 1979 and it revolutionized music production. The console is renowned for being an in-your-face type console. So it's very loud, very punchy. This is why it works great for drums in particular. It was the first console to integrate dynamics onto every channel. Also has a VCA bus compressor and total recall and automation. So this was very revolutionary for its time. This and the Neve 8024 defined the 80s and 90s sound. So if you're looking for that kind of sound, this is the stuff that you should be using. Here is the plugin itself. We'll start with the center part here. Something that I've noticed about the metering on this is it seems to be a little bit, or the representation is a little bit quiet. So this is why I've got this VU meter here. What you'll notice is I've got this going in and this is up here. This has gone past the -12. It's in the red. But according to this VU meter that I've got from Waves, we're not even anywhere near. This is -18 on this 0. This has a -18 dB headroom, and it's nowhere near it. So the metering on this seems to be a little bit low for me, for getting enough signal into things like compressors and stuff like that. I found if you're hitting the 18 mark, there's just not enough signal hitting things like the compression and stuff like that. What I do is I use another VU meter. It doesn't have to be the one from Waves. It could be any VU meter that you like. I'll get like a balance of the two just throughout my gain staging, just to be sure that I'm getting enough signal into that. Otherwise, you're having to really kind of push compressors just to get anything going. So to start with, what we have at the top here is a trim going in. You have phase polarity button there, so you can reverse the phase if you choose. And then we have the preamp here. So if you want to kick the preamp in, we could do that like that, but you know, it's not doing anything. You know, that's supposed to be an extra 50 dB. So what you have to do is turn that on. So this turns the preamp on. So this preamp was a transition from the old JE115s that were in the 4000Bs previously. The preamp adds more even harmonics when it's being pushed, when it's a moderate push. You can push it right the way up. But yeah, once you start hitting the reds, I would try and avoid that if I were you. What I would do is go in greens into the orange or yellows on there if you want to add that extra harmonics. I like it. I like the extra harmonics it gives. So that's it bypassed. And that's it in. It doesn't add any extra volume. It's literally just adding even harmonics, okay, to that. Moving down from that, obviously we have our fader there. That's pretty standard. A cut there if you want to bypass it. And you can listen. We have a listen for your sidechaining here, and an output trim, which you can bring all the way down if you so choose. The stereo version of this, you have a width, which will obviously add extra width, and a pan on there. I'm going to use the overs to demonstrate this. So it's pretty extreme. If you want a hard pan stuff. Like that, purely because obviously the mono versions, they don't have the panning and the width on there because it's a mono thing. On the left-hand side of the channel strip, we have the EQs set out very, very traditionally SSL. See, low and high pass filter to the top, and you can bring them in and out as you choose for monitoring purposes mainly. The high pass here goes all the way up to 3K, and then the low pass here goes all the way up to 350 Hertz. They sound a bit like this. The low pass, see, pulling it all out. I'll probably leave that around there. And the high pass, something like that. Pull that in and out for you. Like so. So that's the filtering. Next, we move on to your 4-band EQ. We'll start at the top here with the high frequency band. You can go minus to plus 15 decibels, and it ranges from 1.5K all the way up to 16K, and you can have it as a shelf. With this button here, you can bell that curve on there. So you're trying to pick out the beta on that. That's it as a bell. That's it shelved. Probably leave it shelved. Okay, moving on, we have the high mid frequencies. Again, 15 to 15, 15 plus to minus 15. But we're going from 600 Hertz up to 7K. And then we have some Q range here for you, which is a narrow Q going to the left and then a wider Q going to the right, like so. So let's bump that up. Probably look to actually pull some of that out. And then we'll move on to the low mid frequencies again, minus 15 to plus 15. And we're going to go from 200 Hertz all the way up to 2.5K on there. And again, narrow or widening Q curve on there. For this, I would probably want to take some of the boxiness out. So narrow that off a bit. That sort of thing. And then we have the low frequencies, obviously, minus and plus 15 dBs. And then we run from 30 hertz up to 450 hertz, like so. So, trying to get some of the sub out. About 60 hertz. So that's sounding pretty good. As a soloed thing, what that sounds like in context, I don't know. But just as a soloed experiment, as it were, you could say, that sounds pretty good. Obviously mixing it, which is why I'm not doing it in context with the rest of the drums and the entire song. It's so that you guys can get an idea of how each EQ band sounds purely by themselves. Also, as a feature of the middle where it says EQ, you've got an in and out. So that's it out. And that's it in. So you have these two buttons here, and these toggle 3 different types of EQ. Now, when you first upload it, it's set to what's called brown knobs. Excuse my childlike sense of humor. If you hit this button, you see they've turned black. So that's the black knobs. If you hit this one, then it's orange. That's the orange knobs. Now, these have different qualities about them. The brown knob is considered to be aggressive. It's an aggressive type of EQ. The orange knob has a much broader Q range to it. It's a lot more like the Paultec kind of EQ curves, that sort of thing. These are a lot more musical. Then you have the black knobs. The black knobs are more of a modern version, so they have a bigger cut and boost on them. They actually go to minus or plus 18 as opposed to 15. So they also deliver a steeper curve for your filters. They're at minus 18 per octave. This is an emulation of the more modern consoles that SSL have brought out. So you'd find them in the Origins, the Dualities, and the Oracles. So it's a more modern style of EQing. From there, we'll move on to the right-hand section, which is the dynamic section. Here at the top, we have a compression mix level for parallel compression. That's pretty self-explanatory. Then we have the usual compression kind of settings. Obviously, we have ratio, threshold, and release. This button that says fast is your attack time. If it's off, it's a slower attack time of 30 milliseconds for 20 decibels of gain reduction. When it's on, we get 3 milliseconds per 20 decibels of gain reduction. The compressor sounds a bit like this. Let's cue it in a wee bit. We're going to want, because this is a kick, we're going to want that. Let's just level match it. The thing to remember is that SSL compressors, they're pretty full on. Okay, so if you're hitting, anywhere over 6, certainly if you're going into the 10 decibels of gain reduction, you're really pushing it. So try to stick between the 3 and the 6, a bit like so. I could probably add a wee bit more. Get that going a bit more. It's a bit more like so. Pull this down a little bit. This is it bypassed. That's what it sounds like once it's in. Moving on to the next section within the dynamics is we have a gate and expander section. We have your typical knobs on this one, which is threshold, range, and release. You will note that some gates and expanders will also have things like a separate knob for attack and hold and things like that. This doesn't have a knob for your attack, but it does, like the compressor, it does have a fast button. When the fast button is off, we have a linear attack time of 1.5 milliseconds per 30 decibels. When it's on, we have a 140 microsecond per 40 decibels. So if you're looking just to gate, bring this up. Make that a little bit quicker. So this is it without. This is it with. It's a busy kit. Gating, certainly gating in certain parts of the song. Like here, for example, you're just not going to gate that out. It's just not going to happen. Pick a part that has less, that's less busy. Gate to that. If we can do it faster. Okay, and obviously check it with your those parts. Anyway, that's what the gate sounds like. What we can do is the expander on there, which the settings. So that's it. It's slow attack time. This is it with its fast. I need to change the a little bit more in, like so. So that's it with it in, and this is how it sounds without. Like so. We have these 2 meters here in the middle of the dynamics. The orange and red is your gain reduction for your compression, and the green one is the decibel level for your gate and your expander. At the bottom here, we have the routing and the sidechain options for this plugin. What you can do is, the way to think about this is that you have these 3 modules. Essentially, you have EQ, you have filters, and then you have dynamics. When you load up this plugin, it's automatically routed. So the signal will come into the EQ, and then it goes to your filters, and then it goes to your dynamics. That's the way that I've EQ'd this out. This shouldn't really change a lot if we swap the filters for the EQ. Just use the arrows to swap these up and down. Swap that over. To my ear, it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference, but it's something just to be aware of. Traditionally, what you would do is filter first and then EQ and then do your dynamics. But what you can do is pop your dynamics before your EQ, if you like, if you want it to compress and gate before it hits your EQ. And then what you can do is completely do your dynamics first, and then it will hit the EQ in this instance, and then it hits the filters, or you could swap. So it's dynamic EQ and filters. Oh, yeah. So you can't have your filters are only ever going to be at the top or the bottom. That's SSL sticking true to the console. And this is an important thing that you need to remember about these sorts of analog emulations, is that when they're producing them, they want this to be as close to the original console as possible. So these little things are quite important to SSL, that it's emulating it in the right way, being true to how the console is, and that's fair enough, I think, anyway. The final part on this here is the sidechain feature of this. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to sidechain the bass guitars to the kick drum that we've just done. I've got it here. As you can see, this is pretty much exactly the same as what we were using before. The only difference is that this is a stereo, so you've got these two knobs. You've got widths and pan on that. That's the only difference between these two. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sidechain these. Because it's an external sidechain, I'm going to click the EXT. That means external sidechain, and that is automatically going to be routed to the dynamics. It's sidechain compression, which is quite a common thing to do. When the kick hits the sidechain, it will kick in the compression, okay? Which you can see here. Nothing else is being done, actually. We could just take these out if you like. So if I hit this button here, that is the external sidechain, and this will automatically be routed straight to the dynamics. So this is doing sidechain compression. Because this is routed to the kick, every time the kick hits, we should get a level of compression, and we'll see it in the metering here. So if we bring in the bass, so that's, pull that out. So that's clearing some room for the kick within that sound space. So that's pushing down every time the kick hits, the bass gets pushed down, literally like doing that sort of thing. Got to be a little bit careful not to get things pumping unless you're in like EDM or something like that. You're looking to do that sort of thing. This is a rock metal sort of track, so that's not a thing that we do within that genre. The other thing that you can do is you can route your EQ into that signal path as well. So with that off, what I've done is I'm boosting 4 dB at 60. It's a bit extreme. It will give you a better idea of how this sounds. I've got this set to the black knobs. So this is it bypassed. So that's it with all three of the kicks that we've got. And that's essentially this entire plugin explained for you. I hope that this has shed some light on this type of plugin. You can just use these channel strips to shape your sound, and everything's just there in one plugin. You don't have to have 50 plugins on one channel. Everything is in one place. You can do so much just with one plugin. Let me know in the comments if you use the 4KE or if you use any others. What sort of things are you using yourself? Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video.